I'm Dr. Ajit, and welcome to another episode of Diaries of a Desi Dog. This is my attempt to create awareness about taking care of your canine buddies and also to prove that Desi dogs are no less than any other breeds as pets. So, continuing from the last episode, in the last episode, I've spoken about parvovirus disease, the early signs of parvovirus disease, and how to know if your pet has the disease, and also about the importance of timely medical intervention in case of parvovirus disease. Timely medical intervention is something that helps the pup recover faster. It also improves the survival rates in puppies with parvovirus disease, so it is very important. Moving on, continuing from the last episode, Sundari was brought home from the clinic after being diagnosed with parvovirus disease with an IV cannula. She was being given fluids at home, and she was having multiple episodes of vomiting and diarrhea at this point in time. And the diarrhea, as I told you in the last episode, was very pungent, and it is very pungent. And cleaning it is absolutely necessary. And the disinfectant that I got from the clinic was a great help for me. I'll also post a link of that in the description below. If you like it, you can buy it. So we brought her home, and it is also very important for the pet parent to know the stages of the disease. In the last video, I've talked about the early signs of the disease. In this video, we'll be talking about the later signs of the disease. This disease also has stages, as any other illness does, and each stage can be noticed by the type of diarrhea the dog has. I know this is a bit it might be disgusting for some, but this is how they present, so it is very important for pet parents to know about this, right? So we are going deeper into science at this point. So I'll be posting a few images, and the following images might be disturbing for some, and if you do not want to watch sensitive images, please skip to this timeline and I'll meet you there again. Right. So initially, when the pup is just beginning to have parvovirus disease, the diarrhea, as I told you, is very pungent and it has streaks of blood in it. So that is when, if you notice diarrhea like this in your pet, that is when you must be sure that she has contracted some disease, most likely parvovirus, and medical intervention must be given. Do not delay, because this is highly contagious and they shed the virus in their stools, and it spreads like wildfire if you have other dogs at home. So it's always important to take them to the vet at this point itself. And then after a few days of this type of diarrhea, she started excreting fresh blood in her stools. So this is one of the late stages of the disease, where they excrete frank blood in their stools, which is a very grave sign. This indicates that the pup is completely sick and it could succumb to the disease at any time. So a pup excreting fresh blood, if you notice this, you must take her to the vet without a doubt that very second. It is that important. Otherwise, there is always a chance of losing the pup, right? And then this was present in Sundari for at least like 5 to 6 days. She had multiple episodes of bloody diarrhea for 5 to 6 days, and after that she was very weak. And the dogs also become very anemic because all the blood is going away. They become less immune, they're prone for infections, and they die of all of these causes, right? They become dehydrated as well. So after having this for about 5 to 6 days, and the next stage she had was greenish diarrhea, which you can see in the picture. She would just, in the crate, she was unconscious most of the time. She would not even get up. She would just have it there itself. So, but one good thing about greenish diarrhea, if you notice after the bloody diarrhea, is that the gut function is coming back. At this point in time, the bloody diarrhea has slowly come down and it turned green, which means that the blood is not oozing out as much, and also that whatever blood has oozed out is being digested, which means the functioning of the gut is returning. So that is a very positive sign if you see this after the bloody diarrhea, which means the pup is recovering. So these are the three pictures that I wanted to show before moving forward, because it is always better to know it beforehand, so that if you notice any of these three, you can be sure about what stage the pup is in if it is affected with parvovirus, right? So we got the pup back home and she was getting fluids. We are just going back to the story so that it will be, so that we can build it again stepwise, and I could describe to you the entire course of the disease, right? So we got her back and she was on fluids again, and I researched online about what I could feed her, because just giving fluids was, I don't know, I felt it was not enough, because I wanted her to eat orally as soon as possible. So I started researching online, and online there is a sea of information, and you must be sure to look through the right stuff, and also take the advice of your vet if you found something useful for the pet, because it's always better to do it under supervision, right? So online I found out that you can always give them water, of course, or ice chips work for them, because they kind of like licking on cold surfaces. So ice chips would stimulate them to lick and have some fluid in them. Or you can also give them ORS. ORS is specifically made for dogs as well. We cannot give them human ORS, because the ORS for dogs, if I'm not wrong, contains more amount of sugar and less amount of electrolytes as compared to human ORS. So it's always better to go to the pet store and get the ORS which is specific for dogs before giving it to them. So online I've read that you can always freeze the ORS and make ice out of it and give it to them, so that they can keep licking it whenever they want to. But all these three did not work with her at all, because she was refusing to eat. She was refusing to eat, or she would just take a sniff and turn her head away and just lay there in the crate. So it was very difficult to feed her. I started further researching online about the same, because I wanted her to have something in the mouth at any cost, because that would stimulate the functioning of the gut further, and also it might improve her appetite over the long run. So I started researching more online, and then I found that you can always, if they are absolutely refusing to do anything, eat anything, you can always syringe feed them. You can take a syringe and feed them through that slowly. You can see there's a small gap between the teeth, right? There are these long teeth and there are tiny teeth. So the gap between the tiny teeth is where we give the food through the syringe. Good girl. But before doing that, do not force it into their mouths. Do not force feed them with the syringe. Try giving them 1 or 2 drops at a time first. If they start licking spontaneously, that is when you can give them, because sometimes pups will be so unconscious that they'll not be able to drink anything. That time, only fluids which are given through the veins will help a lot. So I took the syringe and I started trial runs on her. I gave her a few drops and she was actively licking it up. That was a good sign for me, because I wanted her to eat something anyways, drink something anyways. So I started feeding her around 10 to 15 ml of water and ORS alternatively every hour, just to see if she could retain something. But in the initial few days, whenever I would feed her with the syringe, she would immediately puke the entire thing again. Again, I started researching on her about what to do next. I mean, she's drinking it, but she's not able to retain it. So that is when I read that, it is okay if they do that. If they puke, it is fine. But whatever they puke, there must be some residual stuff inside that we have given them, and that would help them a lot, because it's always better to have something inside than not trying at all. So the online article which I've read told me that you must continue feeding them every hourly, at least 10 to 15 ml. That is not a lot, it's a very little amount, and see that you feed them regularly. I did the same thing for the next couple of days, and every time I would do that, she would puke, but still you need to keep feeding them about it if they are actively drinking, that is again. So I kept doing that. I kept giving her ORS and water alternatively, and after 4 or 5 days the vomiting started slowly coming down. She started retaining a little more. Then I increased the dose to like around 15 to 20 ml. So at this point in time, it was almost around 15 to 16 days. The bloody diarrhea also has come down, and she started showing signs of improvement. She would be sitting in the crate now and opening her eyes for a longer time and staring around. Though she had a very blank look and very tired eyes, but still this was an improvement over just laying there unconscious in the crate. Right. So she started looking and sitting in the crate, and at present I would go pet her and try to talk to her and everything. I wanted to communicate with her somehow because she was very weak. And when I am having a fever or when I am like that, I would always love to have some company with me and somebody to talk to. So I thought she would be feeling the same. As first time pet parent, I was too emotional with her. So I was trying all the means I could find to communicate with her. I started to read online, and I found out that when you talk to them in a soothing voice, they do understand. Pets do understand the tone of your voice, if not the language, and that would give them reassurance. And I did that, of course, and also I tried to make her listen to dog noises. You have internet these days, you have YouTube with everything in it. So I would play dog noises and make her listen, and she would just turn her head or open her eyes wider, and then I knew that fine, she's trying to understand what is happening, and that was a good sign for me personally, because I wanted to create an atmosphere of positivity around her. So this was happening, and it was almost the 16th or 17th day, and finally she was slowly recovering. The diarrhea and the vomiting have come down, although she was very weak at this point in time. I ordered these digestive tablets from Amazon, from Drool's company, which I thought would be beneficial because the ingredients said it has a lot of helpful gut bacteria in it. So I got it and I tried to give it to her because it would help her, gut health. She just sniffed it and she just spit it out, and it was laying there in the room. After 3 or 4 more days, very surprisingly, she walked out of the crate. That was the first time in more than half a month that she finally come out of her crate consciously on her own, and she was kind of walking around the room. And I found her playing with something in the room, and I thought it was an insect or something, or a cockroach, or maybe I went closer, and so I went to her to take a closer look, and I found that she was playing with that little tablet I gave her a few days ago, and she played with it and then she swallowed it. So that was a sign for me. So that was how I understood that her appetite is coming back, which was a great sign. So I started, I tried to give her water in her bowl, and she started drinking water from the bowl as well for the first time in so many days. It was all a positive, curve from here on. And then I thought that, that little ground meat that I brought from the clinic a few days back, it's time to give her that now, because, that is supposed to be easily, digestible for the dog. So I went that morning, and I opened the little can of that ground meat, and she sniffed it from way inside the room, and she started barging out of the room, and she galloped towards me for that meat. She was so excited and hungry, she couldn't even sit quietly, and she was barking for me to give it as soon as possible. So that was a good sign. That's a very good sign. So I gave her that little food mixed in curd rice as advised by the vet, and she gobbled it up in no time. And that was when I was completely sure that she is finally cured of the disease. This was the final sign for me to be sure that she was completely cured. So now that she's out and about, and she's been hungry and eating well, it was time for her to go for another vet consultation. So this time I wanted to go to this very famous government veterinary hospital in Narayanaguda in Hyderabad, which is close to my place. So I decided to take her there after reading all the reviews and talking to a few friends. And I chose to take her in an auto rickshaw because I thought it would be easier for me to manage her there because she would be sitting by my side. And cabs do not allow pets. Not everybody does, so it's a risk to book a cab and then wait for another one. So I chose an auto rickshaw, and she enjoyed the way through which we went to the hospital. She was looking at all the vehicles and she was very curious about what was happening around her. So we went to the vet and they told me that she's out of the disease, there's nothing to worry about. They gave her final dose of antibiotic, gave her some probiotics and vitamins to be had, and that's it. We came back home and she was fully recovered. But in the course of this illness, she lost so much weight. She was just 2.5 kilograms at this time, which is just her bone weight. There was nothing else on her except her skin and bones, and her bark also was very frail. So at this point in time, I thought it's time for us to start going on walks again. So I took her to the terrace that evening, and I put her on a leash because I thought if she runs around too much, it would wear her out again, and she was already very weak at this point in time. So if you have a leash, it will be controlled, the walks can be controlled. So I took her up to the terrace, and she was galloping around and she was barking at stuff, and she wanted to go back into the house, and it was fun. It was great fun, and she was so thin, and when she walked, her back would wobble separately from the trunk. It was like she was walking with two different parts of her body. She was that thin. But I was really glad that she was able to recover from all of this. For her to again gain a proper weight, it took almost 5 to 6 months of time to gain weight healthily. This was the story of Sundari and her parvovirus, and how she has come out of parvovirus. It took almost 18 to 19 days for her to recover from the illness. So this is with utmost care and going for vet visits again and again and again. And it took this long. But so imagine how much the puppies go through without medical attention. This is the reason why they do not survive parvo without medical attention, because they lose all the fluids in their body. They lose blood, they become anemic, they lose electrolytes, and everything is just being flushed out of the body. So it is very hard for them to survive without any medical care. So timely medical care is very important, and I cannot stress on this enough. So that's all for this episode. We are finally done with the parvovirus part of the episode, and I hope I was able to convey something through these 2 episodes on parvovirus disease. The only intention was to create awareness among pet parents so that they'll be able to easily identify the disease, and also to showcase how Sundari has recovered from it. I mean, animals have such great love for life. They never give up. They keep fighting till the end, and they want to emerge victorious. They never give up. Even when Sundari was at the weakest point, when she was not able to even get up, when she was not even able to open her eyes, she would open her eyes partly with great difficulty at a point in time when she was excreting all the blood. Even then, when I would go to her, she would very frailly, wag her tail, showing that, yes, I see you. So the love they have for life and the fighting spirit is something I take inspiration from. And it is very important for us to love them and care them as our own, and to give them timely medical intervention. Again, I keep saying this again and again because it is that important. So that's all for this episode, and I'll meet you again with another topic in the next episode. Tap the like button, like the video, share the video for the love of animals, subscribe to our channel, and take care, stay safe, and goodbye. So we'll give her a small part of the treat so that she'll kind of be into it. So when we